All right, welcome back to the unofficial review. I'm Seeds, and this is my football review. Today, the question is going to be to Goff or not to Goff. That's the question. That's one of those things that, again, typical like the Kaepernick situation. It's going to be this: what do you get for what you give? And so that's kind of how I'm looking at this. There's a few factors I'm taking into account of why not to start Goff. A lot of people are saying pull the trigger. He's your first round draft pick. Why not use him? Get him out there, get them experience. Case Keenum isn't taking care of it, blah, blah, blah. But again, this is one of those things where I'm not saying that obviously all fans don't know what they're talking about, like myself, but a lot of the fans don't necessarily know what they're talking about. And a lot of times too, especially in the heat of the battle, when they're watching the game, when their emotions are running, and they're seeing their team lose, and they're seeing the current quarterback not, do very well. Again, of course, they're going to just say, hey, let's start the new guy. But they're not going to, again, think from a perspective from a head coach standpoint, because that's the thing, is one of the most crucial points that I want to point out of why not to start him is that the mere fact that Jeff Fisher doesn't want to start him tells me a lot about why you don't want to start him. It's one of those things where if the head coach thought he was capable and thought it wouldn't be a bad idea, he most certainly would start him. So it's one of those things where if your head coach isn't believing in the new quarterback ready to start, again, we shouldn't assume that as well. It's one of those things, like I said, that sometimes coaches are wrong, sometimes players are wrong, and so forth. But yeah, I don't definitely think that the head coach is going to want to not start this guy if he's ready. It just wouldn't make any sense. And again, a big part of that too is again what you potentially could get for what you're giving up. Because that's one of those things is what you're giving up is you're essentially giving up this kid's ability to learn and to not have any pressure while he's learning. Because that's a huge part of being a quarterback. Is that once you're actually getting in the starting position, you're going to feel that pressure to keep it up. Again, that's what everyone's expecting, especially when you're not doing well. If you're going to replace a guy that's not doing well, that means, of course, they're assuming you're going to do better. So that's the thing, is that for a guy who was struggling a lot at the basics, he was struggling with simply just getting the snap from the center. He was struggling. I saw him in practice a few times where he was tripping over his own feet, and then we saw him preseason again. I think he had a fumble where he just kind of tripped over his own feet. It wasn't anything that the opposing defense inflicted on him. So he's a little rattled. He's a little shaky whenever you see him on the field, and so that's a big thing. Again, is clearly, we've seen reasons to question whether or not to start him, and then the head coach doesn't want to start him. And then and then like I'm saying, you don't want to set him up for failure. That's a huge part of it. Is that, like I said, you've got a very stout defense and you got a solid running back to help him out. But the problem is you're not doing very well, and that team just moved. All their captains are new captains. I want to say Todd Gurley's a captain. It's his second year. Aaron Donald, who he's gotten in trouble. He got ejected the first game of the year, is a captain. So you got a lot of younger, undisciplined leaders. And so that's the thing, is you're going to give this new guy the hot seat, so to speak. And he clearly, like I said, he isn't ready. So again, to me, you'd be setting him up for failure because you're going to kill his confidence. And so that's the thing, is it reminds me of, I remember I was watching a documentary on Kurt Warner, and he was talking about how when he was in New York, starting for the Giants, and Eli was a rookie that year, there was a point where I want to say he went, I want to say it was like 3-3 or 2-2, and then they ended up benching him and going with Eli. But that was one of the things that Kurt Warner said was, hey, if you come to me, or not if you come to me, but if you go to him from me, you can't come back. It's like you cannot bench that kid because you're gonna kill his confidence. You cannot essentially move backwards with a new quarterback. And so that would be the problem, is that once you started Goff, you can't bench him, regardless of how crappy he may or may not play. So that's one of those things, is you can't undo that. So again, you're looking at a situation where you're 3-4, and is it really worth risking the confidence of your potential future franchise quarterback just so that you have a few more wins possibly this year? It's not a sensible football decision. So that's the thing, is that I was looking at the schedule, and in order for them to probably get a wild card spot, if that was a miracle happened at this point, they'd have to go 7-2 over the next series of games. And so that's the thing, is when they're currently 3-4, you're expecting them to suddenly turn it around and more than double their wins and only have 2 potential losses on the rest of the season. Again, for a guy who's never taken a snap in a regular season game, who looked to be very mediocre, it's a lot to put on a guy. Because that's the thing, is you look at his opposition, and the first 3 games is Carolina, Jets, and Miami. And rightly so, that those three teams haven't played it super well. But between those three, you got to think at least one of them is going to probably beat the Rams, especially with a rookie quarterback. They have enough defensive talent in Carolina and in New York and in Miami. All three of those teams have pretty stout talent on them, not necessarily cohesive, but they have enough talent on those defenses. At least one of those three is going to make their first loss, and the next three is against the Saints, the Pats, and the Falcons. Again, I'm going to guess they're probably going to go 1-2 against that three crowd. So again, you've already got three losses. Final three is against the Seahawks, the Niners, and the Cards. Again, those are three division teams, which the Rams typically play well. But again, let's say they go 2-1 at those last three. Again, that's already 4 losses. You put them at a surprising 8-8, right? That's a very familiar number with the LA now Rams. So again, it's just one of those things where what are you going to get for what you give up? And that's the thing. Like I said, is Jeff Fisher will most certainly start Goff if he actually thought that Goff was ready. But there's a reason he hasn't started yet, and there's a reason he's not going to plan on starting this week. So it's one of those things where as much as you want to at least see the potential future, the problem is that, like I said, there's a reason. Trust me, if the head coach did not think it would cause any damage to put Goff in there, he most certainly would have. But like I said, is he clearly does not want this kid to essentially start having discouragement and start, get a bad taste in his mouth to get his first NFL experience. It's one of those things where you look at a lot of quarterbacks, and like I said, his fan bases and teams get extremely impatient. And some of the best quarterbacks we've seen the last couple of decades sat behind somebody. You look at Tom Brady, he sat behind Drew Bledsoe. You look at Aaron Rodgers, he sat behind Brett Favre. You look at, you look at Steve Young, he sat behind Joe Montana. So there's a plethora of guys who are top-notch first-ballot Hall of Famers who sat behind previous Hall of Famers. And so getting that knowledge, again, you're building up intelligence, and you're allowing yourself mature, and you're not putting a lot of pressure to perform because you're not on the field. And so you're allowed to develop and have a stronger understanding before you get your feet wet. To me, it's a much more beneficial thing for quarterbacks. It's one of those rarities when you see some of those young guys just start right out of the gate and essentially go really quickly to a franchise type look. As far as you look at guys like Cam Newton, like Derek Carr, Russell Wilson, and just some of these younger guys who have just Andrew Luck, who've just gotten it done. And so that's the thing, though, too, is that you look, like I said, you look at Andrew Luck, and you see his lack of success, and then you see a guy like Russell Wilson, you see his statistically much better success. But again, too, when you look at both those guys, and you look at the teams around them, and again, that's one of those things that I know a lot of people gave flack to Russell Wilson because he had a lot of help when he succeeded. He went to the Super Bowl and he won, but it was one of those things, too, where that was my argument, is I'm like, look at so many other quarterbacks. You look at Tom Brady, you look at the defense that they had when he got those first 3 rings. You look at the offensive, you look at Gronkowski and Edelman and the offensive help he had the last time they won the Super Bowl. Again, you look at John Elway. He went to the Super Bowl several times, but he got his ass handed to him until he had Terrell Davis, who got the MVP of his first Super Bowl win. So it's one of those things where the best quarterbacks all had help, and you look at a guy like Dan Marino, who had no help, he got no rings. So it's not an accident. It's something that's what happens. You look at Peyton Manning. He was a shadow of himself last year, and he got his second Super Bowl. So again, it's one of those things where people have very short memories, and again, they don't remember what the benefits are of having a quarterback sit, and again, they don't remember the benefits that a lot of successful quarterbacks have. They just think about the number of rings. And so, again, it's one of those things where that's one of the things that the Rams have been missing for years. They've had the last 2-3 years, they've had a very stout defense, but they have been missing a quarterback. And so, again, if Jeff Fisher really, if he did not feel confident, or if he did feel confident, he most certainly would have Goff. So, again, if he's not starting, he's not starting for a reason. So I'd just say be patient, Ram fans. Be patient, because all good things come in time. But yeah, we'll be talking about some of those fun, new, good things come shortly.